This is Andy B on the Get Your Home Show. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome. This is the Get Your Home Show, 4 till 7 on weekdays. And today, as is my pattern on a Monday and Wednesday, I've got a guest to introduce to you. But very excitingly, we've got some brand new music. Stephen D, the rock legend king, says it's really good. I like it already because it's more than 5 minutes long, which to me is a sign of something better, which means I get to say hello to you, Lisa. Hello. Lisa, how are you doing?
Hello, Andy. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
Jolly good. Right, let's just cover some simple bases first. For Kingdom's Cause, just give us a bit of information about that before we start.
Yeah, Stephen actually asked me where the name came from, and it actually just came to me in church one day. We were just singing worship, and all of a sudden, bloop, there was the name, and there was just no hesitation that that's what it was going to be called. It was quite funny at the time because it was only just me on my own at that point. So I was like, oh, okay, is it weird if like me as a person just on my own call myself like a band name? But obviously God had other plans, so, and it's turning into more than just me. So that's where it came from. And it's just everything that I do, and all the songs are just for Kingdom's Cause. So it's bringing more love into the world. So that's where it came from.
Awesome. Put yourself in a box. What genre of music? I don't like boxes, but hey, I'll ask you the question.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always try and think of who we sound like, and I would obviously refer to Flyleaf and bands sort of similar to that, female-fronted rock. At the moment, I'm sort of calling it alternative faith-driven rock. That's where I've sort of landed at the moment. But, as music develops, who knows?
It'll change over time, though.
Yeah.
And then a different album will come out and it'll change.
Absolutely.
Right. Let's go into faith then, because you've already mentioned faith. So let's kick off with that one. You're in a church. You come up with a name for Kingdom's Cause. Hey, I can do that. Where did faith originate for you? When did it get serious for you?
Well, to be honest, faith hasn't always been part of my life at all. So I grew up in a non-Christian home, never went to church, never spoke about God, nothing. Had a lovely home, lovely family, but just faith wasn't part of it. So it wasn't until it was 2019, and I've been married to my husband. We've been together since we were 15. And we married in 2011. So by 2019, we'd had 2 children, jobs become, more of a priority, and we kind of drifted a bit. So we got to that point where I just knew things weren't right. And it was at that point that I actually found God. I spoke to one of my best friends. I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm really, scared about my marriage and all this stuff. And she introduced me to God, told me her testimony. And it was just from then on, really. She started praying. She told her church and the prayer team, and they started praying. And then things just started happening. And I think because of who she was, because she was my best friend, I trusted her with my life. I just knew there was something in it. I think if it had been anyone else, I would have gone, okay, all right then. But there was something, I knew there was something in it. And so I had a moment one day in the kitchen where I just started dancing around, and I just felt so joyful, even though it felt like the world was crashing down around me at the time. And I just felt an overwhelming sense of peace, and I just knew that I was okay, and I knew that God was real at that point. And it's just been a journey ever since 2019, really, just growing in my faith.
As a piece of scripture that I was given when I first became a Christian, I was 7. So what's that? That's about 84 or something, 85. And they gave me the scripture from Isaiah. And I shared this the other day, but it's relevant right now. And it's fear not, for I redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. And they wrote it out for me and put my name in, which was really just, it's still precious now. And then later on, I got a few verses further on, having never read past the first 2 verses of Isaiah 43, because, hey, why would I bother? The first 2, I got that nailed down. And then you get to the bit where the bad stuff happens, and the fires come, and the waves come, and you can be drowned, and you can be burned. And through those difficult times, I love the fact that the scripture said that God walks with us. Jesus walks with us through those difficulties, not see you on the other side, or, come to me, let me know when you get here. He walks through those problems, which And what you're saying, that's basically what was going on for you, because that peace that transcends all understanding, it does. I know that. I've had that. I've lived that as well in very different situations. But when you walk with God, he will be with you through those difficulties.
Absolutely. And I definitely felt that. And at the time, not long after, I started a Alpha course, and they started getting lots of pictures for me. I didn't really understand what it was all about at the time, but they would always pray before we met, and they would always have pictures, and all the pictures seemed to be so directly relevant to me every time. I felt like a bit bad because I was like, oh, sorry, yeah, that's me again. Like, I feel like that relates to me. And one word and one thing that kept coming up everywhere in songs, in dreams, in thoughts, in words was diamonds. I remember waking up one day and just being like, diamonds. I was like, why am I saying diamonds? And that's been quite an important sort of word for me going along, because in hindsight now, I look back and I know that God was refining us, you know, as a married couple, and we had to go through some stuff. You know, we had to go through the fire and be refined. And it's quite a good point to make now, actually, because Heart-Shaped Void is all about that. It's the refining.
And if you've ever watched The Refinery, and I've been around them a little bit when I was a truck driver, they're not gentle.
No.
They're not calm. Refining, when you see gold being refined, it's really violent as a process.
Brutal.
Yeah, well, exactly. But you definitely have been there, haven't you? So when you think about refining, that's what you go through. And yeah, I quite agree that when you are being refined by God, it's not gentle. But again, he's taken all the pieces of our life, all the broken bits, and he's putting them together.
Absolutely. And you can't help but look back and just be so grateful and just so in awe as well. I find every day, just God will show me something, and I'm just so in awe every day at his huge plan and how everything fits together. It's just incredible, to be honest.
Also a really great example of why it's important to talk to our friends and have friends in the first place. You know, somebody befriended you, they're a Christian, you're not, and they're your friends. I mean, that's so, I was just talking about that this morning with somebody, the importance of having friendships in all sorts of different places. I was thinking about when I was at school doing Christian theology, and we had, you know, A-levels, so 16, 18 years old, and there was a Muslim, there was some Methodists and some, you know, atheists, and we're all in this pot together thinking about theology in terms of Christian faith, because it's CV secondary school, but it was really useful learning. And I was reflecting just this morning, actually, interestingly, about how those 2 years are really foundational for my own life, because it helped me to think, well, if I believe that God is God, well, why? How do I think that? And why do I think that? And then when someone says, well, there is no God, God doesn't exist. Okay, well, what's my answer to that? Well, of course he does. It's not a very deep answer. So then I had to start thinking about it. So some of that I was actually thinking about just this morning.
Absolutely. I think as well, for me, having those close connections is really important, because I'm like a massive introvert, and I'm not one to go out and be like, come to know Jesus. I'm just not wired that way. I'm not going to go out and just be all evangelical. I'm just not. So having those connections, and you can just have one person that you really trust, but you're shining your light, and then they get curious, or, you know, by me writing my songs, somebody might spark that curiosity. So yeah, that's huge. And we've all got different gifts and talents, haven't we, to use. So we're not all ones that are out there screaming, you know, come and follow Jesus.
No, because we're all different people. And
yeah.
It's that authentic bit which is important, because actually we all need to be who it is that God's made us. And that takes a lifetime to discover, of course it does.
Yeah.
But we need to be true to who God's called us to be. I remember I did worship leading for 30 years, and I was in this session with some younger folk, and they were really not doing a very good job. Let's just put it that way, as politely as they can. And they were trying to do what Bethel Church does, you know, this massive multi-million-dollar enterprise, and they were trying to be one of the singers. And I said, why are you trying to copy them so much? Oh, but they're really good. I said, yeah, they're really good, but you're trying to be them, which doesn't make you good. It makes you a bad copy of them. How can you take ownership of this particular song? And it was like I'd opened the lights on them or something in a dark room, and I'd just ask a question. And they said, oh, well, could we do this in the song? Well, yes, you can. You're the one leading the music. So take ownership and do who you are. And then all of a sudden it gets great. And everybody says, oh, that was really good. They didn't change much. But rather than copying somebody, because they were already great musicians, they just made it their own song and their own sound, which was the life-changing thing for them that night.
100% agree with that, because similarly, because I was a new Christian and I started going to church, and that was when I started hearing worship music for the first time. Never heard it before. So then eventually I joined the worship team, and I was watching obviously other people to see how to do it. And to begin with, I was doing just what you said. I was thinking, okay, so I'm a Christian now. I need to sing in this particular way, in this particular style. And it got me feeling quite resentful for a while, because I was like, oh, but this isn't really who I am. But I was trying to push it away because I thought, I'm a Christian, so I ought to be like this now. I ought to be different. It was all learning for me. But it's taken a couple of years for me to really understand who I am. God's really shown me who I am deep down. He stripped everything back. I had to put down a lot of stuff, everything actually, just lay it all down. And then gradually he's been showing me exactly who I am. And this is where this music's come from now. It's okay, I know the style of music I like. I love God. I want to sing. I want to do it for Kingdom's cause, and yeah, just enjoying the journey.
Enjoying the journey is it's so easy to say, well, just have joy in the journey, which is great when it's all good and the tires aren't having punctures and the windscreen wipers haven't stopped working in the rainstorm and all that stuff. But you can still have joy. We've been through some really hard times as a family, and somehow people have said of us afterwards, gosh, you were always smiling through that hard time. Now, I promise you, during it, we did not think we were smiling. But when you've got Christ in you, when you're trying to serve him, even when the bad stuff happens, there is still joy, because joy isn't manufactured by us. It's made by God, and it's a gift to us, which is why we can't earn it. We can't create it, but we can be gifted it, which is beautiful. Clearly what he's done. Shall we go to the song? Because we're going to do this in a very exciting way and play the song. So I'll make sure I've got it set up, but just tell us a bit about the song. What are we about to hear, and why are we about to hear it, apart from the fact that I'm going to hit play?
So the song is called Heart-Shaped Void. It's the second single off an upcoming album that's going to be released later in the year, and it's a song about relationships, and it's inviting God into your relationship. It was actually inspired by a friend of mine who's going through relationship problems at the time, going through a divorce. So it was my sort of cry out for God to come into that situation. But it's kind of knowing that if we come to a relationship trying to get, you can just push that brokenness onto someone else. It's about coming as a whole person and bringing love and serving. So it's a cry out. It's a kind of a prayer. I hope you like it.
No, cool. And just before we go into it, this isn't just you, because you've now got other folks in your band. So just run us through the musicians that we're about to hear.
So at the moment, it's me as the lead singer, and then we've got Dan Ford, who is on drums. So I've worked with him previously in a previous band. So yeah, he's really great. But we are potentially looking for guitarists. But we're seeing what God wants to do. There's I'm not pushing anything anymore. I'm done with all of that, so I'm just open to what God wants to do with this.
I will pick that conversation up after this one. So, in your best voice, let's introduce this proper. Go for it.
Okay. This is Heart-Shaped Void. I hope you enjoy.
That was, for Kingdom's Cause, Heart-Shaped Void. First time I've heard that in one ear whilst chatting to Liza. So, you are the person that set up the band for Kingdom's Cause. Is that your third song, second song? I've forgotten how many songs in we are now.
Yeah, so that's the third one. I did one on my own, Renovation. That was the first one. And then we released Tyranny and Lies not too long ago. And then, this second one that's going to be on the album. Yeah.
Now, when I first started seeing you sort of popping up on socials, one of the things that really made me think, yes, I recognise that sense. There was a particular radio station, just sort of hard rock stuff that you quite liked, but also started to think, but... and that's one of the reasons, I guess, why we've gone the way we have with being 3 Point Pure. So we'll play anybody, don't care. No bad language, that's it. That's the only standard we have. And I do know the radio station you're referencing, which I'm not going to bother doing now. But I do remember thinking some of the songs, do you know, yeah, I'd rather not have that bit. We met someone at Big Church Festival 2 years ago, and they ran up to us because we had big T-shirts on there. They always look very obviously like a radio station. Do you really play heavy metal music? Yes, we do. Do you really like take out the bad language songs? Yes, we do. So I can listen to you, never hear bad language. Absolutely. I love heavy metal, hate bad language. So it's nice that we can do that because it's important and it matters. I also, but I have to comment on this. I like the fact it's over 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That makes me very happy.
I'm glad I could make you happy there.
Doesn't take much. No, but everyone's trying to produce like short videos, short songs, and do you know, I play 8 and 10 minute songs, which is terrible for radio, except for the fact it's not, because it's brilliant music.
Yeah, you've got to get into them, haven't you?
You have Led Zeppelin, 10, 12 minutes, Kashmir. It's a bit of
Some
a
long songs.
It is Guns N' Roses. So let's go into music. So for King of the Cause, that's the band. If you're tuning in, that's the band that you've got going. It's yourself. You've now got somebody else who's joined you on there. Where did music fit into all of this for you? Because you've got a band, so there's got to be some musical knowledge, experience prior. So where did music come into your life?
Well, music's always been huge for me. I've always loved music. As a teenager, I would just be in my room blasting music all the time. What do we listen to back then? It was probably Linkin Park, Papa Roach, Korn, all that sort of early 2000s sort of new metal stuff I was massively into. I think that's when I really got into music. I think I felt that the lyrics were really raw, and I felt like I felt heard through them. I think I still love all that music, but becoming a Christian, I think I noticed that whilst it's still okay to sort of sing of struggle or, you know, challenge or pain or whatever, I was missing the sort of injection of hope in there. Do you know what I mean? So I loved the heaviness and I loved the rawness of the music. But I wanted to create something that still felt that, but had a bit of a light at the end, if you get what I'm saying.
No, I do, because a lot of songs, unless you know how God can fit into your situation, then you are more limited, not exclusively, but you're more limited to talking about the situation without an end, without a light, without a get out, without the hope. And I think that's where decent music from Christian artists is really important, because I mean, we never differentiate as a station. It's really important to me. We don't say it's a Christian artist, it's a non-Christian artist, because you know what, music's brilliant. I've just put Linkin Park in for after this. Why? Because it's phenomenal.
Nice.
And that's how we work as a station, because it's the music that will change things, and the words really do matter.
They do. I was just saying to Stephen actually before we were on air, some of the stuff that I'm listening to at the moment, the songs are really sort of, they're not necessarily Christian artists, but they're really wrestling with God, and it's quite interesting to hear some of the things, you know, they sing about, and it is great, and it's fun to watch as well, because some of them then, you know, come on and start saying, oh yeah, I've found Jesus, and you know, like Papa Roach, for example, and the singer declaring that he follows Jesus, you know, it's great to watch. And I don't know if you've heard of President. Have you heard of President?
No, not that one.
No. Some of their stuff is really heavy. You might like it, but you can really hear the wrestle there. So it's kind of a watch this space thing. I find it really interesting.
I have two thoughts on this. One is about heavy metal singers. If a heavy metal band, it doesn't matter male or female fronted, when they do kind of what I would think of as an acoustic in the sort of normal song world, they are the most powerful. There was one that Lacey Stem did. There's a Flyleaf song. There's an acoustic version of it. I mean, I get chills when I listen to it because it's so powerful. And when I think people who are able to project their voice like that suddenly really, really restrict it down to quite a gentle, soft, soothing thing, it is the most powerful, the most chilling sound I have ever heard in the most beautiful of ways. But I also think, and this is something that Stephen D and I have had lots of chats about, a lot of the writing of some of the heavy metal bands it's more honest. It's because they're not trying to be popular. So they're not talking about love and breakups, and that's not the most important thing. It's how am I going to get through to tomorrow? Because
for sure.
Life sucks. They're more like the Psalms in the Bible.
Exactly.
Kind of, being very careful, than so much else out there, because a lot of the pop stuff, however good it is, it's not necessarily touching on realism. I mean, I know a lot of this is going to be a little bit of entertainment, so fine, it's going to go to extremes, but actually a lot of the heavier stuff, generally speaking, from what we've been looking at with lyrics and stuff, there's a lot more reality in there.
Yeah, I mean, we feel all these things, don't we, as humans? We have all the struggle and the pain and the wrestling, and it's no good being a Christian like I am and just pretending all that stuff doesn't exist. It's still there, but you have the hope, and you don't want to stay in that space. You want to move, from it. But also at the same time, I like to think of our music as a bit of a bridge between the two. And it is kind of strange because some of like the really heavy fans don't necessarily feel like ours music is their thing, but then you get the proper Christian like worship stuff and it's not really their thing either. So I feel like I'm in the middle a little bit. But then someone like me who didn't have faith at all, if I'd have heard music that just, said, it was just worship, it was praising Jesus, I wouldn't have listened to that, because I wasn't in that space. Had I listened to something, similar to what I'm writing now, it was heartfelt and I could understand, I could resonate, but then there was hope in there, I might listen. So I like to think that the audience is a bit of a mixture of both, and that people that don't have faith may become curious as a result of listening to the songs.
Which I think is a really good way to go. I led worship in churches, everything from kind of traditional hymns to children's worship and the most contemporary stuff from the age of 10, 15 onwards. Yeah. And so I was going to say subjected, actually that's probably not even too strong enough. I was made to listen to all sorts of worship stuff, worship cassette tapes, which does date it slightly. And it was just, we could do better. Is this the best we can do? We're here shouting, what, God's great. We've got creativity and we have this sort of bag of rubbish. And this is all we've got left. I mean, seriously, can we not do better? I look around the music scene today, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and it's transformed because there are people saying, hey, do you know what? We love decent quality music. We happen to be Christians. We can still do this. It's okay. It hasn't just got to be worship music, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want something more than that's kind of the point you're saying, then it's good to have decent options out there.
Yeah, and I'm very sort of aware that some people, in the Christian community won't like what I'm doing, because some people like Jesus to be in, his name to be in every song, to make it clear. But for me, I know who I'm connected to, I know where these songs come from. I know where the lyrics come from, and I know the meaning behind them. And I'm bringing more life in the songs, yes, I'm singing about struggle, but I am giving the hope there. So everything is for Kingdom's cause in my eyes. So
jolly good. Now, I said I wanted to talk to you about pushing doors open.
Yes.
Might be the phrase we use. Because I have some thoughts on this, which won't be a shock to anybody listening. But what is it you're trying to mean when you're saying about you're not pushing anymore, you're just sort of waiting and seeing? How do you describe what that is as a process in your life?
I think I've been in situations before where I've tried to hurry things along, or done things in my own strength. Like, for example, with the music, the old band I was in, that started to get a bit more worldly and come on, we've got to get this and we've got to do that and and it was all it just felt stressful. When that ended, and then I thought, maybe I should be in a really, maybe I need to create a band within church. So I spoke to all the Christian people I knew, like, do you play an instrument? Do you like rock? And I really tried to push that. And we met, we got together and we played a few songs and it was fine, but I knew it wasn't right. But now knowing you just need to be patient and trust God's perfect timing, because again, like, God's blessed me and this band so far, and things will just work out when they're supposed to. And I've just noticed so many signs along the way where I'm just like, yeah, okay, God, yeah, I'm on the right track.
You see, now my thought on this one is really simple, which is I really believe in working hard. I believe that's important. We should be working. We work a 6-day week every week, week in out. And people say, "Oh, how do you get so much done? Work a 6-day week." There's part of it. We're not, working ridiculous hours either, by the way, but we just work over 6 days. But I also don't believe that we're meant to push too hard, because I absolutely emphatically believe that God created us as amazing, creative, gifted, talented people. We've got parts of the very nature of who God is within us. We've got his emotions. We've got his, the creativity. That's all part of that is in us. So if we're not careful, we can create opportunities because we can push hard and we can force the doors open where perhaps God either didn't want us to go or was thinking, but the better doors just to the right. If you just waited a moment, because as people, we want to get to the end of the journey, which coming back to what you said at the start about having joy in the journey. Well, you can't have joy in the journey if you're just waiting for the end, because then you'll miss all the bit in the middle.
Absolutely. And even before, this all started, I had offers of, joining cover bands and things. And I was like, oh, it's an opportunity to get back into music and to perform again. Yes, I could have instantly slotted into this other band and been performing, tomorrow, which is what I really missed. And I was like, I really want to do that. But I was like, no, I know this is not right yet. And obviously this was in the pipeline, which is more amazing than I could ever have imagined. It's just, I just feel so blessed to be doing this. So yeah, but I understand what you mean as well about not just completely sitting back and going, okay, God bless me. Like, you can't just sit around and do nothing. Like, it's been really hard, actually. All the prep work in the background. I've been up, late at night creating all the artwork for it. There's been a lot. I didn't realize what went into making a release happen. And it is hard work, and you've got to put a lot of hours in, recording time, practicing time, rehearsal time, and your money as well. It's the resources for it. You got to give, haven't you, to see. You can't just sit around and just hope it's all going to happen and land in your lap.
No, because I think one of the lessons I've learned over life of walking with God since I was 7, I'm nearly 50 now. Got a lot of people saying, "Oh, where's when the money comes in, that's my sign to start." And I just don't think that's how it ever is meant to work.
No.
You think about Noah in the desert. It's going to rain, right? You need to build an ark. If Noah had waited for the rain to come as a good sign, he'd be dead, and that would be bad. And if he'd have waited for the money to come in for the last piece of wood in the boat, he wouldn't have started. So actually, he had to get going, and it's one of those examples that I think is really important for us as people who want to do something. So we share this quite publicly. When we started this radio station, we had 3 people in a week in February 23 who said you should start your own radio station. Same wording, different people, didn't know each other. Right, okay, we'll pray we start. We knew we were going to start on the 1st of September 2023. We also knew in August that we couldn't possibly make October because we'd be bankrupt before we get there. That's in September 23 starting. Well, we're now, where are we? Nearly March 2026. It's not because we had all the cash. It's because we've gone and God's provided. And we've seen this in our own family life, as well as, the team we've got of 35 plus people now who are all volunteering in different capacities. God opens the doors. And when we push really, really hard, we really can create some amazing opportunities, but God's got a better plan. So it definitely is not about sitting back and waiting, but it is about working hard with what God gives you, and then doors will open.
It's just taking that step, isn't it? It's almost like, okay, here's this. Are you going to take it? Are you going to show that, you can be trusted with more, sort of thing? And even with all of these songs that we've been recording, I was thinking, how am I going to finance this? And actually, I decided that I was going to do it before having the money. And it just so happened that the money just came along. But I think you've got to take that step. You've got to show your dedication and what you're willing to do and put yourself out there. And you never know what might happen.
Let's come back to faith a little bit. You said that you met your husband when you were 15. You got married, you had children, you came to faith. I just want to go into that just a little bit. Obviously you became a Christian, so your life changed. What happened with the rest of your family when you said for the first time, hey, I'm going to go to church on Sunday? Was it a, oh dear, or interesting? I mean, how did that transform your family?
I'm glad you asked that question, actually. No one's asked me that before. And I always think, oh, I wish I'd said something about it. So initially, my husband was a bit like, what on earth is this? Like, who's this God person you're now putting before me? Actually, he thought it was ridiculous. And I remember playing some worship music and he laughed. He wouldn't mind me saying this, he thought it was just bizarre. My sister thought I'd lost the plot. My friends didn't get it. But actually, on Father's Day one day, when we happened to go along to a church service, and my husband was trying to be supportive, so he came along just to, be a good husband and all that. And he had his own experience where he felt like his whole body caught fire. He likes to say it as though he was, on Street Fighter when he was like in the back. So that's how he said he felt. And then he came down from the front of the church and he sat down next to me and he said, I never want to talk about this again. I just know that I'm a child of God and that's that. And I was like, it was brilliant. I was like, what has just happened? So my husband is now fully on board as well. Since then, my sister became curious and she was like, this is my sister. So again, it's that connection, I guess. She was like, it's my sister. Like, is she lost the plot? But no, there must be something in this again. So yeah, she now comes to church and is a Christian. And it's just moving through the family. 2 kids come along, they were baptized the other year. They go to their youth groups and it's brilliant. I never would have imagined, if you'd have told me, I would have literally laughed in your face and said that would never happen to me because I lived a good old proportion of my life without God. So it's kind of bizarre, really.
I mean, you say it's a question that you want to talk about, but for me, it's the most obvious question of what happened.
Yeah.
What's the change? Because I've met so many people who've gone to a church on a Christian service in traditional, lovely candlelit church. Oh, it was lovely. I felt so close to God. You're going to come back next week? Oh no, I'll see you in a year's time. You can have that encounter, but unless it crosses over from encounter to personal, it's just an encounter. And as good as it might be, it's not life transforming, life changing, but quite evidently with your husband, yes, it was.
It's been quite a journey and it's so wonderful to be able to share the journey with him. We talk about stuff all the time, really in-depth stuff. We'll go out on a dog walk in the mornings and we just talk. Like some stuff is so deep and we're like, oh, wow, I feel like I need to lie down. But it is great. It's great to have that. And I know it's not always like that for some people. I would just say, just trust God's timing because he's got it all figured out.
And then, this is the most obvious question for me as well. So your husband then goes to a church being a nice chap. Let's go along and support the wife. Fine. Meets God. Your children have been baptized. So obviously they've got their own relationships individually with God as well. What was the home like before and after God then sort of came into your heart?
I guess in our marriage, because we drifted, it was all, we weren't serving one another. We were all sort of for ourselves and like, what can I get? What can you do for me? Whereas now, like me and my husband are so good now, like so good. Our family life is brilliant. Like we used to, not argue loads, but if there was an argument, I might not speak to him for a few days and we'd hold grudges or, stuff like that. Whereas now, we don't argue very often at all, hardly ever. And if it is, it's not really an argument. It's more of a disagreement. And we are very, very quick, all of us, even the kids, to say sorry, like very quickly. Like even the kids, like if my daughter has a bit of a meltdown moment, it won't be long before she's like, I'm really sorry, Mum. And I'm like, I know you are, darling. We've just got a lot more patience, a lot more kindness with the way we speak. And we have like God holds us to account. We don't have to like tell each other, oh, you did that. We have that ourselves. We sort each other up, we sort ourselves out, you know, before we bring what we have to the table. So we don't need anyone pointing the finger saying, oh, you should do this, you should do that, because God does that for us.
He's quite good at that part,
Yes.
whether we necessarily are opening our eyes or ears or not. So what's happening next for you guys? Because obviously the band is starting to grow. You've got a drummer. I know you said your producer was doing some bass guitar with it, so it's beginning to grow. Where's next for you? Have you got an album in the pipeline? Are you writing songs? Are you touring? What's next for you?
So at the moment, we've got a few more songs in the pipeline. One is going to be released on the 6th of March, which is the day after my birthday. So that's coming up soon. And then we have a couple more before the full album drop later in the year. I'm not 100% sure on the date yet because I've swapped it a few times. But then the plan is we're starting to rehearse on the 28th, which is what? That's like next. Oh, we're 23rd today. So yeah, we're starting to rehearse very soon and getting live ready. So we'll be looking to do some shows, which is what I've missed because I haven't done that for a while. So I'm really excited for that. And then I think probably over summer might take a bit of downtime just to, because it's been a lot of work. Like I said, it's been wonderful, but time to just really be with the kids, enjoy the outdoors, and then who knows? Normally on dog walks, songs come to me. That's where they usually start. So yeah, I will put myself in that space and be open to any more songs that come through me. So we'll see.
Now, just as we come into an end, you've talked about how not all the folk are going to want to have your music. I remember a guy who wrote an album. It's quite different. I wouldn't even know how to try and put it in a genre. It's very good. I enjoyed it. A lot of the church bought the album that he made out of kindness. Oh, yes, we liked that. And he said, you've not listened to a word because it was quite interesting. It's more like David Bowie kind of 20s, 2000s, not your standard rock or pop. But I love that. Have folk listened to it who said, well, it can't be good? And have they said, actually, that's all right? Because I know, having been around church for an awful long time and worship and music and all that, there'll be a lot of people who have never heard it and thinking, oh, bless, you're having a go. Because that, sadly, is the attitude that is just prevalent and wrong, by the way. Have you had folk who've listened and thought, that's good, that?
Yeah, a couple of people at church, actually, who I didn't really expect to like it, because I lead worship at church as well, and obviously it's nothing like this sort of music. So I actually gave the music to the prayer team at the church, said, this is being released. Would you mind, praying over it for the people that are listening? And I went to church after, and a couple of people came up and said, Lisa, I listened to your music. I was like, yeah. And they were like, it's not what I expected from you, but I like it. So that was quite nice. I think they didn't expect that sort of genre to come from me, I don't think. But yeah, that's always been what I've loved. So
well done. I remember doing a worship evening Sunday sort of worship contemporary session. I remember the vicar saying, at the evening service people, they will not be coming to this particular one on a Saturday night. They won't turn up. They like traditional, and they won't. And they were turning up, and we were doing some crazy song stuff, really. And they were there bopping away and dancing. And the vicar said, I can't believe they've done that. And I think my words were, don't ever put people in a box. They might prefer to worship in a traditional way, but that doesn't mean to say that they only want to worship in a traditional way every week. That's not the same thing.
Absolutely.
Keep doing what you're doing. If people are listening thinking, hey, I've become a Christian, my husband isn't, what do I do? What's your advice?
My advice, I think, would be to not push it. not feel like it's your responsibility to try and convince him or, you know, persuade. Just be who you're created to be, shine your light, serve, be kind, and in God's perfect timing, I think, you know, they will be drawn to that and they will become curious. I personally, if somebody had come to me and said, you ought to read this, you ought to, I would have said, nah, I'm quite stubborn. So I would say just trust.
Cool. Liza, from the band For Kindred's Cause, it's been a pleasure. Just finding out more about your life, your faith. I love your husband's willingness to be the supportive man and the experience he had. But it's just really exciting to see where you've come from, where you're going, the way that you're doing your journey. It's just really encouraging to watch. So I can only just say keep going. Keep bringing the music because we like it. It may not be on my show. It'll definitely be on the Rock Show if not. But for now, Liza, thank you. How do people get hold of you and your music?
Thank you so much, Andy. So we're available, you know, on all the usual streaming platforms, Apple Music, Spotify. You can find us on there. Give us a follow because then obviously when the new music hits, you'll hear it straight away. And we're on Instagram and Facebook, TikTok as well, although I'm not so great on TikTok. It's all a bit young for me. So we are on there, and YouTube, just at For Kingdom's Cause on most platforms, you'll find us.
Cool. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. We're going to play some more music now, inspired by your chat. Here's a little bit of Linkin Park for you.
Awesome.